Okay, by now I've played tons of different Doom mods for a while now, and I thought about which ones I favor among the countless I've played, so I thought I'd share my favorites with you guys. Disclaimer, this is just my personal opinion. If you can't handle people with differing opinions, you should probably click off this video right now. With that in mind, here are my top 20 favorite Doom mods. Starting off the list at number 20, The Sky May Be, a vanilla mod that modifies weapons and enemy behavior as well as provides some new levels. Notable for its many references to things such as Zordos and Monty Python. Very bombastic and silly in its humor, it's definitely good for a laugh with its over-the-top style. It also has some interesting concepts such as imps that are basically walking BFGs and barons that somehow one-shot you if you're in God mode. It can get pretty frustrating, and once you get right down to it, it's pretty shallow, but I'd recommend trying it at least once just for the delightful humor and creativity that went into it, or better yet, get The Sky Will Always Be, a Z-Doom compatible version, and as always, the gun is good. Moving on to number 19, we have the Revenant Problem, a levels pack. Most of you are probably familiar with the trolley problem, where a man must decide between letting a trolley kill 5 people or flip a lever so that it veers off and hits a single person, either doing nothing and 5 people die, or being directly responsible for 1 dying. This mod makes every level one of those. Good silly humor, but once you've seen all the choices once, it's probably not worth replaying again. Still, it's pretty interesting for what it is, and the ending almost seems like it's a parody of Trying Too Hard to Be Deep Stories. Number 18, Romero's Death Skittles, a gameplay mod. The best way to describe this is it's basically bowling on steroids. Your objective is to bowl down the Romero heads while avoiding the skulls as they harm you. Armor and health bonus pins do the obvious, while question marks give you a special ability to help turn the tides in your favor. Surprisingly addictive and good to play when you're bored and just want to play a casual phone-style game in the Doom universe. At number 17, we have the Soundless Mound. As of the time of this recording, it's just a demo, but I'm very impressed with what I saw. Moving away from Doom's fast, action-paced nature, it takes a slower-paced, more Silent Hill-esque style, which might not be everyone's cup of tea. I especially like the balancing puzzle it went with, and I look forward to seeing more of it. It may seem a little slow-paced to some, but I think it works well in that regard as a survival horror, and the shader effects are certainly quite impressive as well. Number 16, Batman Doom, a total conversion. While it may not seem as impressive today, you have to realize it was vanilla compatible and it plays very well for what it is. You get batarangs and the like, and you beat up on thugs or Batman villains as bosses. It does a good enough job modeling itself after Gotham, and it has enough variety to keep from getting repetitive. It even has sewer levels. Some pretty nice effects here, and a trip to the Batcave between sections round out this mod. Check it out if you're into Batman. Moving on to number 15, we have Golden Souls, a total conversion mod. It's the result of taking Doom, adding Mario, with a pinch of Zelda into a blender. If you enjoy Nintendo, especially Mario, you'll love this. The goal is to basically collect all of the red coins in each level, which can vary wildly in terms of difficulty. It even has some boss enemies for you to fight. It's got a healthy amount of platforming and has painting worlds just like Super Mario 64. If you're a fan of Nintendo, definitely give it a try. And at number 14, we have Russian Overkill, a weapons replacement mod. If Doom can be described as a power fantasy, Russian Overkill takes it to an absurd level, especially its drunk simulator difficulty, which gives you all super weapons and makes every power-up an extreme sphere, resulting in you being massively overpowered and making even the toughest levels an absolute piece of cake. If you're feeling bored or stressed or the like and you just want to feel really powerful for a while, I'd heavily recommend trying it out. And at number 13, we have the High Noon Drifter, a weapons replacement mod. It replaces Doomguy's regular arsenal with Wild West-styled weapons and providing an assortment of items from a torch to invulnerability sphere and invisibility sphere, the usual stuff. But then it also has stuff like a Matrix-time power-up that allows you to see things in slow motion. And you can radio in some ghost guns to harass your enemies with. You can even get a power-up to summon and play as this massive freaking demon to lay waste to everything. Of course, the downside is it drains your cell ammo, so use it wisely. Give it a try. Moving on to number 12, Doom for Doom, a weapons and enemy replacement mod that aims to essentially turn classic Doom into Doom 2016. The weapon and enemy behaviors feel very good, perhaps what Doom 2016 might have been like if it came out in the 90s, and the credit system does a good job replacing the upgrade bots that obviously couldn't have just been modded into the levels without making dedicated levels for them. The Gauss Cannon is especially gratifying, and the mods you can add to them are only the icing on the cake. It even provides a credit incentive to get all the secrets and kill every last enemy on the level, and that's a great way to be able to purchase upgrades and become more powerful that much quicker. It's great if you want Doom 2016 action mixed with classic Doom level design. Side note, beware of the pain elementals in this mod. Moving on to number 11, we have Samsara. It's primarily a weapons replacement mod with classes, and boy is it a good one. It essentially allows you to play as protagonists from other 90s FPSs. Your choices are Marathon, Quake, Duke 3D, Hexen, Heretic, and Wolfenstein 3D. I typically choose Duke Nukem just for the one-liners, and the Duke 3D weapons always feel satisfying to use, but the other options are there, and you can use whatever Doom IWADs are out there to play with them. They're generally balanced enough that you should be able to play them in vanilla maps no problem. For instance, Duke has infinite pistol ammo, but he doesn't get the benefits of the super shotgun since his equivalent uses rockets instead. Very fun if you want to mix and match your 90s shooters. I even used it to play as Duke and Hexen once. Now we're in the final countdown. At number 10, we have Pirate Doom. It replaces levels and the appearance of monsters and weapons. It doesn't change too much, but what it does change is pretty freaking awesome, and the changes of the monsters is very fitting to the pirate theme. I especially love the freakified Doom monsters in the circus level. Overall, very good levels with a great aesthetic. You go all over the place, from a bar to underwater. It even has a level that's dedicated to using cannons to sink enemy ships by obliterating their crews. What more could you ask for? Check it out right now. At number 9, we have Knee Deep in Z-Doom. Its goal was to basically take the first episode, Knee Deep in the Dead, and amplify it with added detail and Z-Doom effects. I think it works out great. It adds a lot of little touches to the levels, but it doesn't go so far over the top that you can't recognize them. In some ways, I'd consider it better than Classic Doom 3, but I'd easily recommend both of them for the same reason. Of course, this isn't a straight-up vanilla mod. It also has new enemy types that will put your skills to the test, so don't expect a cakewalk here. Check it out if you loved the first episode and want to relive that glory all over again. Moving on to number 8, Mayhem Mansion. This was an interesting one. I played it on Game Jolt as a standalone mod, but it is a Doom mod. It's also hilariously silly. You basically have to stop a scientific experiment and go through all kinds of crazy scenarios to do it, including getting an iron stomach so you can handle some food without dying in the process. It also has some unique enemy behaviors, such as an anvil enemy that is completely immortal except for its own fired spike mine traps that turn to mush when you shoot them, which for some reason hurts them. If you have an eye for the unusual, I can't recommend this one enough. Moving on to number 7, we have Beautiful Doom. It's an enhancement for the weapons, enemies, and general decor. For the most part, it adds frames and just generally makes Doom better, but unlike Smooth Doom, Beautiful Doom also changes the gameplay in some ways. For instance, you can pick up a second pistol and fire them both Rise of the Triad style. It could be seen as a little balance breaking, but you're not required to use it, and I try not to. The only downside is that since it adds extra strain on the CPU, it could cause larger levels to lag relentlessly. I actually had to refrain from using it in Impromptu Minidito because it was lagging like hell, but that's not the mod's fault, I just have a pretty weak computer. All in all, it's a great enhancer mod to use, and I swear by it anytime I'm playing mods that don't really change the appearance. Number 6, Castlevania Simon's Destiny. This mod changes the levels, weapons, and enemies to be more like the Castlevania series. As the name suggests, you're playing as Simon Belmont with his trusty whip, and you have to face some fairly challenging enemies on your way to challenging bosses and trying to make it through each one. From wolves to skeletons to Medusa heads, do not expect an easy ride here, especially the aforementioned bosses. Let's just say it stays true to the series it's based on in terms of raw difficulty. It even has a hilarious cameo to the angry video game nerd in it. Definitely play it if you're a fan of the Castlevania series, and what is a man? Moving on to the top 5, we have Realism. Basically, it has a selection of maps that function as arenas, and various enemy types, weapons, and special conditions are determined at random via a reel, hence the name. You might end up with very powerful, strong weapons, or you could end up at the mercy of whatever comes. Hilariously, one enemy type is bronies, which are basically harmless, but don't let your guard down. Some of the enemy types can be quite brutal. There are even bosses to contend with, and they can be pretty damn brutal if you don't keep your guard up. If you like wacky arena shooters, definitely give it a go. It's got a lot of replayability. Moving on to number 4, we have Metroid Dreadnought. Yes, I know, it's probably a bit biased because you know I love the Metroid series, but what are you gonna do? It's a weapons mod that seeks to replicate Samus's equipment, and while it does skew the balance in your favor since Samus's beam weapons have infinite ammo, it's still a blast to play. Of course, her beam weapons are hardly all you get here. You can also use her double jump, morph bomb, and even missile combos. Much like Russian Overkill, it can be very entertaining if you don't mind the fact that it makes the game a bit easier as a result. We're really coming down to the wire in this one, folks. At number 3, we have Trump Doom. It has its own levels, a unique weapon, and some audio and graphic replacements for the enemies, in addition to 2 bosses, Bernie and Hillary, respectively. Putting politics aside, I just think this game has a good amount of humor to it. It's definitely one of those tongue-in-cheek comedic mods that you play if you don't take things very seriously. I mean, for crying out loud, he's got a railgun that's him pointing and saying, "You fired." If you're not the easily offended type, there can be a lot of fun to be had here, and the Duke 3D textures really help with the city environment feel to it. Number 2, WW Cola 3. It's a weapons replacement mod where you gain various different kinds of weapons, and as you beat enemies, they drop cola bottles that you can use to gain EXP points for your currently selected weapon to beef up its power. Perhaps my favorite effect is the card weapon, which when it hits an enemy charged up, produces an effect similar to winning an old school game of solitaire, and it's really satisfying to see. It's a very fun weapons mod to play, and I never felt it made the game overly easy to play. Although there is a laser weapon that's essentially infinite ammo and just has a temperature cooldown, but the neat thing is it gets more powerful the more heated it is, so if you keep it in the red, you can make it insanely powerful. It's a very fun mod, and I definitely recommend it. Before I get to my number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions. Ouch_M can be very funny and hilarious for a little while, but it's very brutal to play, especially if you have all the options on. Lost Alpha does a great job playing a little more like Tom Hall's original vision for Doom and utilizing some Alpha Doom resources. Quake Champions Doom Edition is a great one if you want Quake Champions in retro form, and the special powers are very fun to pull off. The Extreme Weapons Pack is another tongue-in-cheek one where the weapons are pretty much gimped to the extreme. Good for the challenge, and if you're lucky you can have the deadliest toothbrush in the history of gaming. I'd also like to give a shout out to Doomero. Pretty much anything he's made is awesome. I'm blown away with how easily he's able to mod Doom into other game mechanics, from Donkey Kong to Resident Evil. Finally, Ridgewad deserves some mention for being one of the first custom Doom levels ever made, constructed with a hex editor. And finally, we have number 1, which is Cyber Dreams. Are you surprised? I certainly was when I constructed this list. When I really got down to it and had to narrow it down to 1, I decided that nothing symbolizes the awesome power of the Doom community quite like Cyber Dreams. It was probably one of the first to try to turn Doom into something other than pure action, and it has a great premise. Kill cyber demons, but you have no effective weapons to do so with, forcing you to use the environment in many clever ways, at least by vanilla Doom standards, to win each map. Usually you use telefragging or crushing, but the way it's done varies greatly from level to level, and it even utilizes the voodoo glitch for one of the secret maps. Some of you might disagree, but I see it as a shining gem, the true essence of what mods can do. And that is it for my top 20 Doom mods. As always, this is just my personal opinion, so don't take it so seriously. Everything I mentioned on this list, as well as dozens I haven't ever mentioned, are great in their own right, and there are far too many great mods to ever count them all. I love that the Doom community has produced such gold, and while I have taken a step back from Doom modding lately to work on Unity, I definitely plan to go back into it if I find the time to. Way to go, Doom community. Keep making and playing awesome mods. Most games wish they could last a fraction as long as Doom in terms of relevance. Go out there and give them hell! If you enjoyed the content and want to stay up to date, I upload 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every single day. You can also subscribe and hit the bell icon, or just check out the end screens right here.